Hey, Dragon Ball fans, this is Todd from the future. Just coming to you to let you guys know that our number system for our episodes got a little bit messed up. So this one will be labeled number 7, even though there's not a number 6. So moving forward, we'll try to iron that out a little bit, but enjoy the episode. And here's Dayton from the past.
Hello and welcome to Instant Transmission, a podcast where we discuss everything Dragon Ball and which villain is actually the scariest and why it's Mr. Popo. Tonight on episode 7, we'll be diving back into our Dragon Ball Super discussion with the first part of the Universe 6 Saga breakdown covering episodes 28 through 37. I'm your host Dayton, and once again I'm joined by my co-host Todd.
Hi.
And before we get into the saga discussion, why don't you give us a brief overview of where the story last led off?
Absolutely. So we've had a few episodes away from the Dragon Ball Super anime. So we're going to go back and talk about the last part of the Dragon Ball Super anime that we covered. So last time on Instant Transmission, Dayton and I covered the Golden Frieza arc, where Frieza was brought back from the dead using the Earth's Dragon Balls. With a few months of training behind him, Frieza arrived on Earth for revenge against the Saiyans who defeated him on both Namek and Earth. Frieza's soldiers attacked the Z Fighters and proved no match for them, but Frieza was far stronger than Gohan and the gang. Thankfully, Goku and Vegeta arrived just in time to save the day. Goku and Frieza began their battle feeling each other out, but they both revealed new transformations in Golden Frieza and Super Saiyan Blue Goku. Frieza had the upper hand until his energy started to run dry, at which point Sorbet shot Goku through the chest with a laser ring. Vegeta stepped in to dominate Frieza, and Frieza, never one to take losing kindly, blew up the Earth with a ki blast.
What a jerk.
I know, right? Whis, fortunately, saved our Z Fighters and used his power to rewind time, allowing Goku a brief window to Kamehameha Frieza back to Hiffle. And that brings us to today's episode, where we begin the Universe 6 arc with Champa the Destroyer.
Yes. The Universe 6 has a god of destruction named Champa, and we're going to find out a lot about him coming up here in these next few episodes.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get to our breakdown of these episodes. Do you want to introduce our first episode, episode 28?
Absolutely. So, the 6th universe's god of destruction, his name is Champa, and the episode begins with what I describe as a fat Beerus riding around in a girl Whis, who is... yeah, I figured you'd like that. Riding around through the universe just for a brief moment before we cut over to Goku and Vegeta doing some pretty hefty weighted training on Beerus's planet.
Yeah, they've got these awesome weighted suits. I think there's even a comment in here somewhere about Vegeta saying the suits are even worse than the gravity training that he's gone through. So these things got to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's quite intense. And as they're sitting there doing their handstand push-ups, sweating, doing, what was it, 50,000 of them?
Yeah.
Whis is just sitting off to the side, just sipping on delicious tea, enjoying the nice afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And as these guys are finishing off their reps, we get an explosion off in the distance, and it kind of sets off Beerus. He comes out and attacks Goku and Vegeta as he assumes that they're responsible.
Yeah, we do get a scene where Goku and Vegeta are in their weighted bubble suits, and they're trying their best, by the way, to get away from Beerus as he's just letting loose destroyer energy all over the planet for, I think, being woken up.
Yeah, absolutely. They've definitely disrupted his nap. And then we kind of cut over to the source of the explosion, where we get to see Fat Beerus, or Champa, and Vados as our girl Whis.
Oh, that's their names. All right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Vados makes a comment about how, they could have landed a lot closer and more gracefully, but Champa wanted to make an entrance and walk his way over to Beerus's palace. But after I would say a relatively long walk, not super long, Champa is exhausted and needs to drink something as he's just pouring sweat, just can't walk anymore.
Yeah, I like this because this kind of does what I think the first or second episode of Super does for us with Beerus and Whis, where we're getting some characterization for Vados and Champa here. And we're kind of getting the idea that Champa seems like he's kind of lazy. He seems like he's a little bit bossy right off the bat. And he's definitely got an ego. We get a couple of like shots of him with kind of this mischievous grin too. So we're figuring him out pretty quick here, which I like.
And Vados does not hesitate to take little shots over at Champa whenever the opportunity presents itself, whether it's commenting on Champa's weight or doing literally what Champa says and kind of being shot down for it.
Yes, absolutely. I like their dynamic here. It does a good job of really exacerbating Champa's kind of crappy attitude about things, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like immature is probably the word that comes to my mind.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And so we eventually get Champa and Beerus kind of coming into conflict. Beerus basically is like doesn't even recognize Champa because he gets this explosion dust on his face. And Beerus just treats him really flippantly. Beerus does not seem to care about Champa in this scenario at all.
Oh yeah, Chappa is definitely got his chest out. He's feeling arrogant. He's talking all cocky, and Beerus is just, "Who are you?" Just shoots him down immediately. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a pretty great exchange there. And we eventually get them at a what looks like almost like a dinner table and a much more civil setting here. Everybody's here. We've got Goku and Vegeta, and we kind of get the reason for Champa being here is to show off his excellent food to Beerus.
That is true. We were about to get a preview into the multiverse, but that was too boring for Goku, so we bypass that and just go into a food exchange.
Because we know Goku's all about the food.
But this is where they confirm that Champa is in fact a god of destruction from another universe, and that these two have met to do a food comparison, which I guess is something that they like to do.
Right, right. And yeah, good point. And I think at this point too, we learn that Beerus and Champa are brothers. I think they reveal that here too. And I mean,
Yeah,
you can tell by their appearance that they're connected somehow.
yeah, I think you'd no one's shocked that they're brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Champa brings out these spotted eggs and feeds them to Beerus, Goku, Vegeta, and I think Whis as well. And we get a couple comments that these just taste like normal deviled eggs or boiled eggs.
Yeah, there's nothing really that special about them, I guess, other than how pretty the shell of the egg is. But I think the big bragging point is that these are boiled eggs from a rare, recently discovered species. So, good use of your finding of a new rare species, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, let's eat their eggs. But apparently they don't taste anything special. And so then we get Beerus bringing out Bulma's favorite dish, as we all know, the cup ramen.
Okay, let's be real. Those are fantastic. I think that's
I'm,
great.
I mean, I do love me some cup ramen. It is pretty funny.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just a funny, comedy bit about the food and stuff too. I like that part.
But I think around this point is when we do actually get kind of an explanation as to how the multiverse kind of works with, believe, Whis and is it just Whis or is it Whis and Vados that explain pretty much the whole thing?
Mostly Whis, but yeah, I think Vados kind of adds her 2 cents in there too, and they kind of describe how there's let's see, it's 13? No, can't be
There are
13.
12 universes,
12.
and each one has a pair, and the number of that universe that it's paired with should add up to 13. So that's why it's 6 and 7, it's 12 and 1, and so on and so forth.
There it is. That's where I was pulling the 13 from, and so we kind of get that description. This is something that we've never heard about in Dragon Ball before, so this is all new lore for us, which is kind of fun. They're expanding and broadening the world of Dragon Ball.
which is crazy to me because I feel like we haven't even really explored our universe. Now we're widening it up to, well, at least 11 other universes. That's freaking crazy to me.
That's a good point. I'm glad that you brought that up because we've honestly, how many planets have we even explored in Universe 7? I mean, we've got Earth, Namek, the Yard Rats.
I think there's a couple movies where maybe they go to another planet briefly or something like that, or we hear about it, but we really don't spend any time anywhere other than Earth and Namek.
Yeah, I mean, Planet Vegeta, but that's gone. Like, there's not many planets. I'm drawing a blank. We haven't discovered a whole lot about Universe 7, so that's a good point. But they're gonna expand it here anyway.
Yeah, yeah, we're cranking this thing to 11, or I guess
Yeah.
13 technically.
So we basically get an exchange between Champa and Beerus here, I think, where they talk about where the ramen came from, and Beerus explains that it came from Earth. And then Vados goes to look for the equivalent of Earth in Universe 6. And it turns out that Earth in Universe 6, there was some sort of war that wiped out all of the people on Earth. And so Champa's kind of SOL in terms of getting some tasty Earth
Yep.
food.
Universe 6 has no Earth. And the laugh that the English dub Beers gives around that fact had me rolling. It is perfect. It is patronizing. It was really well done, and it actually got me laughing. Your universe's Earth is destroyed? It's so good. And
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this before, but the first time through, I watched all subs, and this time I'm watching the dub. So there are going to be some things I point out that are, I guess, I remember differently or just hit me differently this time.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I've got a few things to mention about that later, too. And so we more or less get I mean, Champa is not happy when he finds out that his Earth is more or less destroyed or at least worthless to him. And so I think he issues a challenge to Beerus, and it kind of starts as a little fight between the two of them initially, but the angels, Whis and Vados, stop the fight, saying that the destroyers would destroy both universes if they fought together.
Yeah, it got pretty heated there for a moment, and the god energy just from the two, I guess, going back and forth was starting to consume everything in a ring around them that was slowly expanding.
Yeah, yeah, and so they basically kind of come to a consensus that they're not going to fight each other, but they're going to create a tournament or at least a competition where they choose the 5 strongest fighters from each universe to fight for them. And basically Champa is saying that he wants Universe Seven's Earth. He wants to be able to take it to his universe in 6, and then he can have all of the tasty Earth food.
Yeah, but the wager on the other side is pretty big deal too. He reveals that there are super Dragon Balls or wish orbs that exist that can grant pretty much anything anyone could ever want. They're immensely powerful and ancient, and that he's been collecting them.
Right. And we've had at least a few episodes early on, I think even as early as maybe episode 2 in Super, that showed Champa and Vados kind of flying around collecting these super Dragon Balls. So we've got a little bit of a taste of that at least, which is good.
That is, yeah, and I'm really happy that it's kind of tying in the Dragon Balls again, so it stays true to the name of the show.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Name drop.
yeah, that's for darn sure.
What did you think about the Super Dragon Balls though, to talk about that for a minute?
Talk about that for a minute. So I'm more or less okay with it, just because I think the idea of there not being other wish orbs in the universe, like, that's weird to me that only Namekians came up with those, and it does feel like it plays with divine energy. But I don't know. I guess I never really questioned it one way or the other. I just looked at it and thought, yeah, cool, more Dragon Balls. I kind of expect this to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and that's fair. I'm a little bit torn on it in that I want them to get rid of the Dragon Balls, but mostly because I want there to be some sort of stakes. So it bothers me at least a little bit when there's at this at this point, we know of 3 different sets of Dragon Balls that they can use to kind of wish away their problems.
I mean, if you ask me, get rid of all the other Dragon Balls and just have the multiverse Dragon Balls, because at least then it's some effort to get them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd be totally fine with that, but regardless, they basically use them as a tool to get this tournament running and off the ground. It gives the gods some sort of incentive.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I don't mind it. I don't think I love it either, but I don't mind it. It's very Dragon Ball, I guess.
Yeah, and that's fair. That pretty much brings us to the end of this episode. Goku expresses interest in participating in the tournament. Vegeta is a little more on the fence about it.
Yeah, he's actually kind of keeping the stakes in mind, whereas Goku just wants to fight strong people.
Yeah, I mean, typical Goku, right? But yeah, that more or less wraps up that episode. Did you have anything else to say about that one, Dayton?
No, that episode, it was pretty much the episode that got the ball rolling as far as where the saga's going. So it was full of,
Yeah.
I guess, important information of where things were going. I also always love every episode where people are training and actually actively getting stronger. So that made me happy. So, and also I like Champa and Beerus's interactions. So it was a very entertaining episode.
Yeah, I largely agree with you. A couple things that I wanted to bring up about it. One, with this being the first episode of the next arc, one of the big complaints that I've seen about Super and that I largely agree with is the fact that it doesn't tie the arcs together very well. They just feel like separate stories. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. This does not feel like there's any sort of connection or meaning to our previous arc, which was the Golden Frieza arc. And so I think we're going to see that's kind of a continuing theme in Super where they just don't tie the stories together very well, unfortunately.
I'm going to agree with you in a slightly different way. I think, if
Sure.
anything, I think this points out how out of place the Golden Frieza arc felt.
I mean, I can't really argue with you there as much as I love Frieza, but it does feel a little bit out of place. In fact, I'm almost positive they skipped the Frieza arc in the manga.
Oh, geez. Uh, it would make sense.
Yeah, which is kind of funny, but the only other thing that I wanted to point out here, and we might be beating a dead horse, but the animation in this one was kind of meh. Some of the faces look a little bit weird. Even the fighting between Champa and Beerus was funny to me because animation wise, it looked really bad. And Goku is sitting on the sidelines being like, wow, they're so cool. And I really just kind of got a chuckle out of that disparity between those two things.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, sounds about right.
But
Uh,
let's let that lie where it is, and we'll kind of skip forward to episode 29.
all right, let's go into the next episode, which is episode 29. It's settled. We're holding a martial arts match. The team captain is even stronger than Goku. Oh boy, doesn't that get you excited?
Oh yeah, this is great. I love the title for this one. It's a little bit spoilery, but not in the bad way that we see sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. But the episode begins with a discussion of the rules for the tournament, oddly enough.
Yeah, Goku is actually the one who says, "Hey, let's do it like the Earth's World Tournament," and he kind of gives the rules with like the ring out and all that stuff. And it seems like it kind of goes over pretty well. He's pretty excited about it. Did you have anything else to say about this scene, Dayton?
There's not a whole lot to talk about other than we're basically just doing the World Martial Arts Tournament, but in space.
Yeah.
And once they decide on the rules and Champa's leaving, I believe he tosses a boiled egg over to Goku as he's walking out the door. And Goku kind of fumbles it for a second and then barely catches it and flips around in his spacesuit where he's kind of barely floating around. He's really struggling with everything. And as Champa's leaving with Vados, he makes a comment about how Goku is such a buffoon and just sorts of just kind of starts ripping on him.
Right. We kind of get the idea that Champa has an incorrect impression of Goku and not only how strong he is, but how, I guess, dexterous and agile he is as well.
Yeah. Which is, that's pretty typical Goku. He's got this kind of soft, I guess, goofy demeanor that I think anyone would look at him and go, man, this guy's a joke. Get out of here, you farmer.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a bit of a. backwoods goofball, I suppose.
Yeah, so I kind of like that it kind of plays into Goku's character and what everyone thinks about him. Like even the god of destruction Champa thinks that Goku's just kind of a goof.
Yeah, that's true. Honestly, we didn't get it in this scene, but I actually would have loved to have heard what Champa had to say about Vegeta, because Vegeta is just kind of sitting in the background, being much more serious and not really showing his hand, I guess. So that would have been
That is,
interesting.
that is true. The Z fighters there were wearing those super heavy weighted suits. They were in their base forms. They just got done training a whole bunch, so I'm sure they were tired. Yeah, they were seeing Goku and Vegeta pretty much at their most exhausted, weakest forms, and kind of making judgments off of that.
Right. Yeah. And we get a quick little scene where we get to see them take the suits off and the suits just sink into the ground, which I thought was pretty fun.
Continuously.
Yeah, they just keep going.
I thought that was good. I also always love the weighted training kind of trope that's in Dragon Ball.
It's been around for forever and I never get tired of it.
Come on now, if you haven't gone jogging in a weighted vest, you're not trying.
I did that when I was a teenager
Uh-huh.
because Dragon Ball.
All right. So after the scene with Champa, I believe it flips over to Balma, who's being approached about a job.
Right. And so they're basically trying to get Bulma to create a radar to find the super Dragon Balls here. Does that sound right?
Yeah, and the whole idea of that is hilarious to me, considering that at this point humanity is barely capable of space travel. Like I mean, they can do it, but they only live on Earth. So the idea of being like, yeah, you can barely make a spaceship. Why don't you go out into the universe and find these things scattered amongst there? Like, it shouldn't be that hard, right?
Yeah, that is pretty funny. It's kind of a Bulma's in a weird place, if only because space travel has been normal for her for probably decades at this point. But space travel for Earth as a whole, I mean, Bulma was probably one of the first Earthlings to go to outer space in the like start of the Namek saga or the tail end of the Saiyan saga originally in Dragon Ball Z.
And
So
I feel like that like they kind of more or less rubbed all their brain cells together and custom made a ship just for that. Like they're not spaceship, smiths. They just
no,
happen to be able to put together enough technology and know how to get something that could get them there.
right. And at this point, again, this is probably almost 20 years afterwards. Uh Maybe not quite that, but this is at a point where Balma could probably build a spaceship. She has the know-how to do it without a problem. And
And is
she's got
rich
a
enough,
that's important.
just like Bezos.
And she's also got, she's got the technology that she created for a dragon radar as well. So we kind of get the impression that they're trying to get her to just modify that technology and create something that is on a universal scale.
Which I think around this point we do get our first kind of sneak peek at the Super Dragon Balls, and they are huge. They are planet-sized Dragon Balls that you can only imagine how powerful they are.
That's a big meatball. Yeah, those things are they're big. And then Balma actually comes up with the bright idea to, instead of using the Dragon Radar or creating a new one, to summon Shenron and ask Shenron, "Hey, where is this seventh Super Dragon Ball?"
Oh,
So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they because that would be a lot easier than actually having to go out there and search the entire universe. Just wish for the Dragon Ball, sort of. Wish for more wishes. Come on.
I mean, Vegeta disappears for all of 5 minutes and finds all seven Earth's Dragon Balls with the Dragon Radar. They summon Shenron and they asked Shenron, and he says, "It is beyond my power to find this one item in all of the universe."
I'm not even saying bring it to me. I'm just saying where is it? And it's you can bring people back from the dead, you can restore entire planets, but you can't find this one thing? Like I got some nitpicks about that.
I'm a little bit torn on it. Like, there's a part of me that understands, like, the universe is, you know, infinite. But then, yeah, I don't know. It feels like a plot device. I think we also kind of both of us wanted to talk briefly about the fact that Shenron comes out this time being even more scared and timid when he's interacting with Beerus here.
Yeah, and it bothers me because Shenron should be this immortal, powerful being that kind of transcends mortality. So I could see him knowing Beerus and maybe being respectful of Beerus, but the whole cowering and fear thing, it gets a little old, especially when Shenron's not usually the funny guy.
Yeah, and it even gets to the point where they say something about the fact that Shenron can't grant their wish, and Shenron's asking like, "Hey, do you guys have another wish?" And Beerus says, "No, you're useless to me," or kind of dismisses him. And Shenron's reaction in that moment was kind of like, "Oh, like a beaten dog." And I was like, "It doesn't feel appropriate for the Shenron that I know and love from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z."
That's exactly it. Like, we spent most of our lifetimes trying to get the Dragon Balls so we could see Shenron, and he was such a powerful, awe-inspiring being, and now he's just kind of I guess, the comic relief at this point, which kind of makes me sad.
Yeah, yeah, I was a little bit bummed out by that too. But moving on from there, we basically get Balma kind of goes to create the radar because they don't have another way to
Oh,
find
we
it.
do have one other important note. Right before Shenron is summoned, Bulma gets a sneak attack kiss on Vegeta, and he's super embarrassed, and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually, and I liked that moment too. I mean, any moments where you get Balma and Vegeta interacting in terms of their relationship, I really enjoy.
Just any explanation into how the hell they work.
Yes, absolutely. And so let's see, we kind of move to we get the reveal here, which is kind of the title drop or the episode title that Beerus tells Goku about Manaka being on the team, and Manaka is supposedly the strongest fighter that Beerus has ever fought, even stronger than Goku.
Which is crazy because up to this point, no one's gotten even close to Goku except for Frieza. So the fact that
Yeah,
there's another fighter in the universe that is stronger than Goku that is going to be on Goku's team is kind of sweet.
yeah, it's a kind of a fun reveal. Goku gets super excited about it, and at that point, Beerus asks Goku and Vegeta to fill out the rest of the team. So we know we've got 3 fighters already between Goku, Vegeta, and Monaka, so they need 2 additional fighters to flesh out the team.
So we know the rules, we know most of the people in the team, and now it's all that's left is assembling the last couple Z fighters that are going to be joining up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so we get a kind of a fun little exchange that I liked between Beerus and Balma here too, where Balma expresses concern that Beerus is going to wish for the universe to be destroyed because Beerus basically says that if he got the Super Dragon Balls, that might be something fun to wish for. But he also says that the Super Dragon Balls are really just kind of like toys to a god, that they don't really care about them too much. It's just kind of an excuse for the competition between them.
Yeah, I think it kind of puts things into perspective. These aren't normal people with normal whims and wishes. These are deities who are timeless and have, I guess, other concerns. So the idea of Beerus getting the Super Dragon Balls and just, I don't know, wishing for whatever he wants, which could be the universe's destruction, might be funny to him because he doesn't really care.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And after that, we get a short little scene that I just liked because it's kind of a callback to the manga with Jocko, where Balma calls her sister Tights, and this might be one of the first times, maybe one other time, where we see Tights in the anime. And Tights contacts Jocko because Balma needs some help getting out into the universe to find this Super Dragon Ball.
All that stuff is just jarring to me.
You didn't read that little manga thing, so for somebody who didn't read that part of the manga, it makes no sense almost. So
It's
I
like,
don't blame
oh,
you.
that Jocko guy. Okay. Oh, Bulma has a sister too. What is going on?
Yeah, it, it doesn't. It feels disjointed in the anime. So I wish they would have. I don't know. Maybe given us like a side anime thing that showed us all the stuff that happened in the little manga between Tights, Jocko, and Balma.
Yeah, and Tights, they don't give me any insight into her personality, so she's just Bulma's nice sister who hangs out on the beach, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely learn a little bit more about her in the manga. Not a whole lot, but more than they give you in the anime.
I mean, the anime gives me she exists, so anything more than that is information.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
But I
So we
think that wraps up that episode, doesn't it?
more or less, we basically get to see the reveal of the Super Dragon Radar, and that pretty much brings us to an end there. One of the things that I wanted to express about these first two episodes is that throughout these two, Goku continuously expresses his excitement that there are so many fighters stronger than him between the gods, the angels, these fighters from this other universe or multiple universes. And that is contrasted by Vegeta being annoyed to find out there are so many fighters stronger than him, which I thought was really funny.
Vegeta doesn't want to keep getting stronger. He wants to be the strongest. He just wants to be at the finish line already.
Yep. Yep. I absolutely agree, which is why I really like that they showed that. And I wanted to bring that up because Goku is just excited about the journey of getting stronger and he likes having these challenges to overcome. And Vegeta just wants to be top dog.
I mean, they're getting older now. Like I understand Vegeta. He kind of wants to retire and know that he made it to the top and call it a day. He's
Yeah,
got kids. He's got a wife. The man, he's got a lot going on.
that's right. He's got stuff dragging him down. But I think he just wants that title. He wants to be the strongest.
He wants to be the champ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's got to beat Hercule first.
But that episode, that was an all right episode. There was, I guess, some decent stuff into there. It felt like it dragged on a little bit, and also the whole Shenron thing felt like it was pointless. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Also, one other thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that we're only on episode 29 of Super, and I think we've seen them use the Dragon Balls maybe 3 times, and
oh
there's
no.
supposed to be 1 year between each time that they use the Dragon Balls.
Yeah,
Uh,
these things are getting out of hand. They're everywhere. Just wish for everything, I guess.
yeah, it starts to get a little bit ridiculous, and it's hard to keep track of the time as a result and stuff too. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a funny detail, but
I mean, they definitely decided to go away from the Dragon Balls are rare and powerful things, and now you just go and collect them when you need them.
yeah, which is I don't know. That's why I wish they would just get rid of the Dragon Ball.
Just get rid of I think we discussed this off air, but I think they should just get rid of all Dragon Balls except for these big old super ones.
I'd be totally fine with that. I those ones are harder to get. The Earth Dragon Balls are too easy to get. Even the Namekian Dragon Balls with instant transmission, too easy to use.
Oh
And
yeah.
so
It's
and
like, oh,
they'd
just call up the Namekians. We need some Dragon Balls. That's as hard as it is.
yeah, more or less. So that's just kind of like the backup Dragon Balls.
Oh geez. Yeah, that's right. But I think that's gonna lead us into episode 30, rehearsing for the martial arts match. Who are the two remaining members? And this episode begins with Vegeta and Goku discussing who their other team member will be as Krillin decides to hop on in.
Yeah, yeah, they're kind of having a conversation with Krillin, but Krillin is not on the list of people that they're interested in drawing into the tournament here.
Oh man.
I know, I know. As a Krillin fan, I'm sure that's a bummer. Uh, I, we kind of get them re-explaining the whole multiple universes thing to Krillin, and this felt weird to me. It almost felt like a weird recap episode, and it lasts for like half of episode 30.
Yeah, there's two big spots where they do a lot of recapping, and it's which would be great. I don't mind the way they did a recap episode, but this was like a recap episode in the middle of a story arc in the middle of the show. So I don't know why they chose to do it here, but I guess we're getting a giant recap of the last few episodes.
Yeah, and it's recapping the last episode that we just kind
Yeah.
of watched. It felt weird. I don't know if they were trying to push home and help people understand how the new universe structure works that they brought in here, but it felt like something they should have just shown us again a little bit later down the road, not an episode or two after they already showed it to us.
Yeah, and when we're watching these episodes, we typically take notes. That way we kind of stay on subject. We know what's going on. I actually just have a recap of the last two episodes, question mark, because I didn't know what they were doing for this episode.
No, it felt a little bit weird. So more or less, we're going to skip through the first half of this episode.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, there's going to be some skipping in here. We're going to skip the recaps because we just gave you a recap.
yeah, absolutely. So I think in the second half of the episode, we get we get a fun scene actually. I thought where Whis is talking to Beerus, and he says that Beerus has changed since he met Goku and the Earthlings, and in that Beerus agreed to participate in the tournament. He spared the Earth and even helped save the Earth, even though Whis was kind of the one who did that.
Hmm.
And Whis ends up comparing Beerus to Goku because they both love fighting and they just want to have fun. So I thought these were some kind of fun, interesting little points where we get to see this kind of breakdown of Beerus's character.
They were fun and interesting points that were also an excuse to do more recap. So it kind of got lost on me a little bit.
Yeah, I can't really argue with you there, considering they did do little flashbacks to the first couple of episodes and with Beerus and Goku's fight and whatnot.
But no, you're right. This was, I mean, the discussion was good because I think, I guess we could say old Beerus probably would have just destroyed Goku and the Earth and moved on with his day. The fact that he not only let Goku and the Earth and the Z Fighters live, which is already out of character for what we know about him, but he actually
Hmm.
saved the planet by asking Whis to do the old take Z's backsies.
Right, yeah. And this is honestly it's a good way of showing what Goku does best throughout all of Dragon Ball, honestly, where Goku changes the people around him. He's changed Piccolo, he's changed Vegeta, he's changed so many characters throughout the story of Dragon Ball. And it's just by the nature of being kind of happy go lucky, a little bit goofy, and loving having good competition around.
I mean, shoot, if I'm remembering correctly, wasn't Tien a bad guy way back in original Dragon Ball?
Yeah, yeah, that's another good callback. Tien was a bad guy who got changed by Goku, and Tien says as much multiple times.
Let's
So,
see here. So I think around this point, the group starts talking about who they're going to bring in for their team, and I do believe they land on Boo and Piccolo are their top choices at this point.
right. And we see them ask Boo to join, and we actually get a kind of sweet scene where Boo is saying that he'll join if he gets a wish on the Dragon Balls. I think Goku offers him the wish. And all Boo wants the wish for is he wants to give it to Mr. Satan, which is kind of
Oh,
fun.
what a nice guy!
Right? Right?
I do like though that they landed on Boo and Piccolo. Even Vegeta brings up after the suggesting those two that why not pick your son? Why not pick Gohan? And even Goku's like, he hasn't really been fighting. He might be a little rusty.
Yeah, which is interesting because even in the Resurrection F arc, we saw that even though Gohan was rusty, he's still absolutely stronger than Piccolo. Piccolo's almost certainly a better fighter though. So that's kind of what Goku's going on here.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. The fact that even Goku wasn't considering his own son, which is something
Right.
that I was I don't know if I like that because I feel like Goku would have kind of the rose tinted glasses. Like we should definitely get my son. We should definitely get Gohan. Remember how he beat Cell?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to bring up too is the fact that Goku pushed Gohan, who didn't want to fight as a 11 or 12-year-old child. Goku pushed him into fighting Cell and into killing Cell. And here we've kind of got the opposite situation where Goku's like, Gohan's not really in shape to fight. But the other thing about that, though, is that maybe this is Goku actually learning and becoming a better father because Piccolo reamed Goku for pushing Gohan into that fight with Cell. And Goku didn't understand his son. He didn't understand that Gohan did not like fighting like Goku does.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that Piccolo actually taught Goku how to father his son, because otherwise, I think a lot of bad things would have happened.
Piccolo, best green dad.
Everyone loves Green Dad.
Mm-hmm. But
Y-
we even get a scene here where Goku and Vegeta go to recruit Piccolo, and they find Piccolo is fighting with Gohan. And Gohan actually is, he's here training. He says that he's got a family to protect and he needs to make sure that he's in shape to fight if there is something that threatens the Earth. And then Gohan even asks to take the spot. He asks to participate in the tournament.
Yeah, and I love training scenes. I love that Gohan's getting back into action. I love that Piccolo's training him. It's so good. I love watching Z Fighters train. And my favorite part about this whole scene was that when Goku first shows up to Piccolo and Gohan training, all we get is Goku saying hi to Piccolo.
I honestly didn't even notice that. That's hilarious.
That was the first thing I caught. I was just like, Gohan, hi. Piccolo, what's up, dude?
Jeez.
Makes me
Maybe
so happy.
my thought about Goku becoming a better father was not so accurate. That's pretty excellent. But we basically end up with Gohan saying, "Oh, he's got other obligations. He's got a conference, and he doesn't want to lose his job." And so, kind of the general theme of Gohan just not getting back into fighting, at least at this point in Super.
Yeah, which is meh. I'm here to see them fight. I would rather Gohan. No, I'd rather Gohan sign up for it and be like, yeah, like after Frieza, I'm a different person. But at this point, I don't get that vibe from him.
Right. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that too, especially if they were just going to. Well, we'll see what they do with Boo later.
Yeah.
But I think that brings us. Oh, you know what? There's one more little thing where Goku says that he wants to train in the hyperbolic time chamber for 3 days, which is another 3 years of training. Which I think he first asked Piccolo if he wants to join, and Piccolo's like, "I can't keep up with you Saiyans." And then he asked Vegeta if Vegeta wants to join, who is initially reluctant, but then decides he doesn't want to get left behind.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I'm at this point, God, how old are Goku and Vegeta? How many years can you spend in the hyperbolic time chamber? Well, then again, Goku got a new lease on life with the whole Super Saiyan God transformation. So
Yeah, and Goku was technically dead for 7 years, so I think
that's fair.
his body didn't age while he was in other worlds. So
Let's not ask about the how bodies and physics work in Dragon Ball, because they just kind of make it up as they go.
yeah, absolutely. But that more or less wraps up that episode. What did you think about that one, Dayton?
Uh, it was an all right episode. Like I said before, I like any episode where people are training, but I mean, they were more or less just assembling the Z fighters, and Goku and Vegeta went into the hyperbolic time chamber again, and that's more or less it. There wasn't really a lot else going on in that episode.
No, the latter half of that episode had some okay information in it, but the first half was mostly a recap. So
Yeah, I think it loses a lot of points for me for being a recap episode of the previous two episodes.
it seems that to me seems ridiculous. I don't know what they were doing, but maybe they just didn't have time to animate stuff for that week or something.
Yeah,
Um,
it seemed kind of fillery, but speaking of actual fillery, you want to move on to the next episode?
let's do it. Episode
Oh boy.
31.
Yep, to Lord Zuno. Ask about the location of the Super Dragon Balls. And oh boy, this is an episode.
Oh man, I don't have a lot of notes for this one, but I know how I feel about this one.
I am fine kind of glossing over this one because
Yeah,
it's just a lot of weird stuff, and most of it's not really that relevant. I think I'm gonna go
no,
ahead and just discuss the most important note, and that's that the Super Dragon Balls are ancient and are split between Universe 6 and 7.
that's basically the most important part that we learn. More or less, Jocko and Balma kind of go on their own little adventure. They fly off to meet Zuno, who apparently knows everything there is to know. And there's some kind of like old school slapstick jokey stuff about Balma's age and Balma flirting with Jocko and Bulma flirting with Zuno and talking about Bulma's sagging breasts. And some of it just feels, I mean, to be fair, it feels like old school Dragon Ball humor, but 30 years later, it feels a little bit dated.
Yeah, and like it's a whole episode of it, so it's kind of jammed down your throat. There's nothing else really going on, so I can forgive a little bit of that with like Master Roshi or whatever, and they'll make their joke and they'll move on, and either it's funny or usually not. But in this episode, where that's everything that's happening, it just I didn't like it.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. On top of the fact that, like you said, them going to even find Zuno and find out where this Super Dragon Ball was, they don't really end up getting much information. And it felt like a pointless episode. It felt like they were trying to pull old school Dragon Ball and give us like a fun little side story, but it was kind of pointless.
Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest critiques of Dragon Ball Super as a whole is that they try to pull on like old heartstrings and reference old things, but it always feels kind of cheap. Like it's not very well
Yeah.
integrated. It's just look at this reference. Look at Piccolo sacrifice himself again. Ugh. It's just kind of jammed in there and it doesn't really feel natural or organic.
I feel the same way, especially for the earlier half of Dragon Ball Super. I think there are some later that I definitely enjoy, but we'll get to those. I think for the most part, that's gonna wrap up that episode.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm happy just to gloss over that one. You're not missing anything.
no, absolutely not. So episode 32.
The matches begin. Everyone head to the nameless planet. And this episode is kicked off with Goku and Vegeta sparring in the hyperbolic time chamber, and they are just a freaking mess.
Yeah, this is pretty fun. I actually liked the exchange here, especially because each of them, Goku starts by telling Vegeta, like, "Man, you always find holes in my fighting," and Vegeta kind of responds in kind, but he's not as forthcoming telling Goku that, but he definitely expresses the same sentiment.
Yeah, I think it's he mostly says it in his internal monologue.
Yeah, yeah. So he's not willing to admit it to Goku, but he admits it to himself, if nothing else.
I say he knows he needs him. He just does his pride won't let him admit it.
Right. Yeah. So I was glad we got that little scene with them. There is a little bit of like kind of dumb Goku here, which Vegeta
They go a
basically.
little overboard sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that with Super Goku, but yeah, we'll see how that changes. Um, we we basically get. I think the next scene is they've finished their training, and Whis is collecting everybody on the last day to actually go to the tournament. And we've got all the Z fighters, their family, their friends, pretty much everybody going to this to kind of just watch and enjoy the show.
Yeah, and even Jocko arrives with the King of the Universe or something like that, which is a weird squid guy.
Yeah, the Galactic King. I think we get a scene with him a little bit more later, but he's just briefly introduced. There's Goku and Vegeta show up here with beards, which I thought was interesting. What did you think about that, Dayton?
um I, I didn't know what to think about it just because it's the first time we've seen them with beards, but at the same time, didn't Vegeta's dad have a beard? So it's something that Saiyans do.
Right. I mean, Vegeta has expressed in the past that Saiyan's hair doesn't change except for their facial hair. And so this is kind of showing us that, but it brings up so many other questions in my mind. Like,
Yeah,
do they shave every day? And I don't know. It's just it seems like kind of a cheap visual gag to me in a way.
yeah, I just whatever. They have beards. Haha, it's funny.
Yeah.
I do have an actual complaint though.
Ooh, let's hear it.
So Goku and Vegeta show up to meet up with the gang to get transported over to the tournament, and they smell awful. They have not showered. If you remember, there is in fact a shower in the hyperbolic time chamber. There is no excuse for that.
I mean, yeah, I think you're right. To be fair, it's Goku and Vegeta.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't know. That is a good point, though. I actually forgot that there was a shower in there.
Because Gotenks gets knocked into Piccolo and they're knocked into the bathroom and they land in the bathtub. There's
That's right.
absolutely a shower in there. I know that because I rewatched some of the Boo Saga recently. So
Yeah, you're right.
I am the expert. There is a shower in the hyperbolic time chamber. I'm willing to die in that hill.
Excellent. There was also here a joke at Krillin's expense that I wanted to bring up briefly, if
Oh
only
no.
because
Don't do it.
I have to.
Oh no.
I I don't know if I don't think that this was in the subtitle version, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up because it's just such an interesting, weird joke to me. But Krillin, I think we said something about everybody make sure you use the bathroom before we leave, and you see Krillin disappear, and then Krillin comes back, kind of adjusting his pants, and Goku asked Krillin if he was summoning the dragon.
Yeah, I did catch that.
I didn't know how to feel about it. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, Dragon Ball has kind of like weird pervy humor sometimes. Uh it just felt a little bit weird for Goku to say. I don't really know.
See, I don't think Goku would have said that to anybody other than Krillin, who he had lived like in the woods with for a bunch of years, and that probably like as kids was their style of humor. So if it
That's a
was
fair
anyone
point.
else, I wouldn't like it. But with Krillin, like I feel like the rules are a little different.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, Krillin is essentially Goku's best friend.
He is Goku's best friend. He says it when Frieza kills Krillin.
Yeah.
Okay, I know these are facts. I know these is facts. I'm an expert.
So yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit weird. It was funny to me, but also partly because it was just kind of odd.
Yeah. I mean, especially like I guess in well, quote unquote recent Dragon Ball. So Dragon Ball Z, that kind of humor wasn't really, I guess, a big part of it.
Not
Other than
often.
like specific characters, like you would expect that kind of stuff out of Master Roshi or Oolong or something like that. But Goku doesn't really make those kind of remarks.
No, not generally. So it was a little bit odd. I don't know. I was a little bit torn on how to feel about it. I just wanted to bring it up.
I mean, my head was just like, whatever. That's probably they've known each other, they've seen each other's ding dongs. They can make those jokes.
Oh yeah, I mean we've seen Goku's ding dong many a time.
I don't think he's bashful about it.
No, not whatsoever. But we basically get the whole crew getting on the hexahedron that Whis brought, his basically travel through space box, and we get to meet Manaka for the first time as they kind of travel to pick up Beerus on Beerus's planet. And we Manaka's an interesting character. What did you think about him, Dayton?
Oh, buddy. Hmm. Yeah, when they first introduced that character, I mean, it's obvious that something's up from square one, especially
Yeah.
when they explain that his name means large shapely nipples.
Great Pontus, which means nipples.
Ugh.
What?
They- There's some weird humor going on in this series, let me tell you. But
Yeah.
uh I don't know. I don't mind Dragon Ball being kind of lighthearted and funny, but sometimes I feel like they just lay it on a little too thick.
I think this episode is a good example of that. And
Did you like
uh,
when Boo farted in the fish tank?
man, I made a note about that too. And I was like, okay, sometimes I'm 12 and that can be funny, but that just felt awkward.
Hey, Boo made a stinky, okay?
Yeah, Majin Poo. Jesus.
Yeah, they're
So,
laying it on a little thick. Some of these jokes they're kind of hitting you over the head with them, and it's mm, okay. Can we move on? Can we get to the good stuff? Because I'm
yeah.
kind of getting over the jokes here.
Yeah, some of them just feel I think they're too, like, rapid fire, and they just feel a little bit forced too,
Yeah,
so
well, they're also cheap jokes, right? Like a
yeah,
good joke should be like, "Oh, that's totally Piccolo." Like that's hilarious. Whereas these jokes,
right.
they're kind of one-liners, they're zingers, and I'm not a big fan of those.
Yeah, especially not in Dragon Ball, it's not really their thing most of the time, so, but we do get Goku basically trying to test Monaka's strength, so,
Yeah.
Beerus won't let him, and Goku just hauls off and punches Monaka in the face.
I actually love that.
See, this is good Dragon Ball comedy.
See that because that's Goku. Goku's like, well, this is the strongest fighter in the universe. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to do everything I can to try and fight this person. I don't care if he's on my team. That is 110% Goku, and I loved it.
Yeah, that's exactly what you were just describing. Is that feels like a Goku comedy moment. That feels like a very in character action for Goku to do, and everybody's gonna love that. That's super funny.
Yeah, because you don't want your character to feel like they're kind of out of place or saying or doing something they wouldn't normally do. Goku punching the strongest fighter in the universe in the face, 110%. That's my guy.
It's so good.
Hey, admittedly, Manaka took it like a champ.
I was shocked. Yeah, I was surprised that he didn't blow his head off.
Yes. But also, do you remember when Goku and Gohan were doing the staying in Super Saiyan form training?
Back in the
Um,
Cell Saga.
there was a scene where Krillin was sitting there with them and he's like, all right, Goku's got to be up to something. He must be honing his senses. He must always be aware. Like, there must be some sort of mental training happening in the background. And so he picks up a rock and just decks Goku in the face with it. And Goku's like, well, what are you doing, you jerk? He's like, I don't know. I thought you were like prepared for it. It reminds me of that a lot. And so I respect it.
That's a really good callback. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because we talked about the moment with just going back a little bit, the moment with Sorbet shooting Goku
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they're really I think even we were talking about, or a lot of the fan base talks about, there's no precedent for that in the past of like somebody being their guard being down and getting hurt like that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that rock scene's a perfect example of that back in the Cell Saga and Dragon Ball Z. So it's a
I
fun
think it's a
little
thing. I think I do think people having their guard up is important. I think it matters a lot. And I think it's not that, I've gained all this power level and therefore I'm invincible. It's like, no, my power level is a reflection of how well I can focus and fight and where I can focus my energy. And it's more of a reflection of what you can do versus what you always are.
right. Has to be more active than just passive.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on to we actually arrive in the tournament arena here that Vados has put together. It gets some renovations by Weiss here. We get a scene with the Kais of both universes showing up.
I love this
And
scene, by the way.
oh, I'd like to hear more about that. So, one of the things that I thought was interesting was Supreme Kai and Kibito actually split here, and they even give us an explanation for how they did it using the Dragon Balls, which again, using the Dragon Balls one more
Mm.
time in here.
How many wishes? Because they use the Namekian Dragon Balls to do that. How many wishes can you make off the Namekian Dragon Balls?
Usually 3.
Okay.
So,
How many dead King Kais are there still? Just asking for a friend.
yeah. Actually, that's funny because I think that the Goku, we kind of skipped over it, but Goku thinks about that earlier when they summon Shenron and he kind of forgot to resurrect King Kai.
I think we're in the ballpark of 5 times the dragon was summoned and King Kai didn't get resurrected.
It's probably pretty close at this point.
Oh, I
you
feel so bad for him.
Oh, yeah. Did you have anything more about the Kai scene that you said that you liked?
So, okay. I think I might be getting ahead of myself with the Kai scenes, but there's a lot of I guess commentary between the Kais that happen that kind of show the different relationships between, I guess, our universes or Universe 7's Kais and Universe's 6 Kais and their mortals and fighters. I love the dynamic that they have.
No, I agree, and I think this is the perfect time to talk about it because I had a note about that as well, where the Universe 6 Kai mentions that it's strange that Goku is so friendly with the Universe 7 Kais, and again, this is just reinforcing what we already know about Goku, right? Where Goku changes the people around him. He's very jovial. He's very even though people say that he's not polite or that he's, uh, doesn't know how to talk to people, he's good at getting in their good graces and making them feel comfortable.
Yeah, and it's you see Goku actually walk over to the other universe's Kais and just kind of greet them casually, which almost kind of catches them off guard, but they're cordial about it. But when the Supreme Kai and Goku and they start talking, even the Kais ask, or are you guys actually friends? Do you know each other? And Supreme Kai mentions, like, yeah, we've been through a lot together. Like, it's kind of reinforced that friendship between them.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that a lot too, which is also kind of funny considering, I mean, really the first time that we see the Kais is in the Boo saga, but I mean, I guess you would absolutely call the fight with Boo going through a lot because that was intense.
Yeah, I mean, they work together to save the universe at that point. I think, yeah, we're friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually too, we move on and get the first scene of our Universe 6 fighters being revealed. We get a kind of couple little snippets of their faces here and there, and then they actually show us each of them in turn.
Yeah, we get
And
a quick flash through of everybody. We don't really know a ton about them, but one of the fighters actually approaches the group, recognizing Goku and Vegeta as Saiyans, which I thought was really interesting.
yeah, that is interesting. And maybe so this is Kaba. This is our Universe 6 Saiyan, and
Is it Kaba or Kaba?
it could be either. I think the English pronunciation is actually Kaba, isn't it?
Okay.
Um,
I get confused sometimes because I don't know, I get confused. Also, it's supposed to be cabbage, right? Like that's the reference?
exactly. Yeah, that is the vegetable reference
Okay.
here.
There's always got to be
Um,
one.
I love it. And he actually reveals the origin of his, or at least the planet that he comes from, which is planet Sadala, which I think Vegeta expresses that planet Sadala was originally, uh, I can't quite remember if it was either destroyed or if it was just like uninhabitable, but they more or less had to move off of planet Sadala to another planet that they ransacked and created or renamed as planet Vegeta at that point.
Yeah, it was more or less like the Saiyans' ancient homeworld that they hadn't lived on in generations, and in the other universe, nothing bad happened to it, and they more or less developed into kind of a pro-justice, defenders of peace, very good people, still warriors, but kind of defenders of the universe in, I guess, Universe's 6 storyline. Whereas in Universe 7, they were kind of pillaging barbarians, like under the thumb of Frieza, kind of not so much peaceful warriors.
Right, yeah. There's kind of a fun back and forth, well, actually, I think that's in the next episode. So, we basically get them our fighters at this point, after they have a little talk, are going to start the written test, and we get to see, Goku struggling through it, a couple of the Universe 6 guys struggling through it, and then Boo falls asleep.
Uh, yeah, the test was boring. He fell asleep, and everyone agrees that he can't be woken up once he falls asleep. And we get to the eventual disqualification of Boo because he did not complete his entry exam.
Yeah, which I think both of us are kind of bummed about this. I know you like watching Boo fight, and I'm bummed about this because even if they didn't have Boo, I would have loved to have watched Gohan fight. I mean, anything that makes this not just the Goku and Vegeta show.
Yeah, and I why even bring him along if he's not gonna do anything? It feels like this really prolonged joke that wasn't really that funny, so if anything,
No.
I'm a little annoyed because, I mean, shoot, throw Krillin in there and have him try and think
Yeah,
through a fight or something. There's plenty of other people that could have jumped in and done something.
absolutely. I would have loved to watch Krillin or Gohan, really any of the Z fighters. I would have loved to watch them fight rather than just Goku and Vegeta, as much as
Throw
they're fun to
18 in there.
watch. Oh, 18 would be great. I'd love to see her do more.
Yeah, it's I don't know, there was this golden opportunity to get more people involved, and they just kinda wrote it off, and now we're back to I guess, the only 2 people that matter.
Yeah, yeah, because Piccolo doesn't get to do a whole lot, as we'll see here shortly.
Yeah, which man, I love Piccolo. Give him some justice. Come on.
I completely agree, but that more or less brings us to the end of that episode. Did you have any other thoughts on that one?
Other than the penguin with the bow tie singing the national or the universal anthem, no, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
That's weird.
Um,
I totally skipped that.
I mean, I don't mind this episode just because it's kind of the transition to the new battleground. We met the new fighters. We get a little bit of comedy, whether you like it or not, and
Right.
it was all right. It's a nice middling episode. It gets me to where I want to go. It's way better than the double recap episode that we just had before this one. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
moves the story along. It does what it needs to do. It feels more or less necessary outside of the Boo falling asleep thing, which was my big pet peeve, but it was an all right episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I guess actually the very tail end shows us Goku getting into the ring with this big Winnie the Pooh looking
Oh,
character.
yeah. Yep, Goku's fighting first. He's fighting Winnie the Pooh, and we're going to dive into that on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
That's right. And that's going to move us on to episode 33.
All right. Episode 33. I'm finding it. All right. Episode 33. Be surprised. Universe 6. This is Super Saiyan Son Goku. And I guess as the previous episode said, it's going to be Goku fighting Winnie the Pooh. And Winnie the Pooh likes to bounce around and likes throwing his body and weight into things. And that's going to be his fighting style, as Goku quickly finds out.
And I'm not gonna lie, we're probably gonna call this guy Winnie the Pooh most of the time, but I do have to just say this character's actual name is Botamo,
Winnie the
but let's
Pooh.
be
Yep.
real. Yeah, let's be real. He's Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the
So,
Pooh on steroids.
oh yeah, this Winnie the Pooh is jacked. So he's big, he's bear-like, he's got a red shirt. It's pretty Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
But we find out pretty quickly that this guy has a lot of weight to throw around, and everyone's pretty much making fun of Goku right at the start of the match when Goku gets hit with a couple belly slams and his punches aren't doing anything, and everyone's just kind of talking about how weak Goku is and what a buffoon he is and how this match is going to be over soon.
Yeah, and there's some gags here as Goku's getting kind of beat up in his base form, where Goku is saying that he ate too much and his stomach hasn't settled, and so then Botamo or Winnie the Pooh starts firing off blasts where Goku gets to run and dodge the blast, and he says, "Oh yeah, my food is settled or dislodged or whatever, so I can fight now." Which I don't know. Again, it's more kind of comedy, goofy antics. I wasn't a huge fan of that, honestly.
No, I wasn't either. I actually just didn't even take notes about it because I thought it was so irrelevant or out of
Yeah,
place or something like that. I don't know. And I guess this is kind of I have the problem with a lot there's too much sandbagging from Goku
yeah,
sometimes where it's I know this fight isn't interesting because Goku is still in base form and he's just kind of dorking around and blah blah blah, but this went to the whole new level of he's not even really trying and just I don't know what to think about it. It's kind of an uninteresting, boring fight, and there are some really bad jokes, and normally I'm into this show for the fighting, and so when the fighting starts suffering, then you know there's a real problem.
even to add to that, and I feel bad bringing this up every time, but the fight sequences, the animation for this fight, so bad. There's like a running sequence where Goku's dodging the blasts, and it looks so robotic and it's real bad.
Is this the
It gets
same one
better
where he
later.
starts like barrel rolling across the ground and it's the same like 4 frames over and over again?
Yeah, it's pretty awful, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the jokes aren't good, the fighting's not really good. I guess the character he's fighting is really not the most interesting character. It's he can't be punched, I think is the thing, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
supposedly Jocko says that his Winnie the Pooh's body sends or disperses the force to another dimension or something like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of his gimmick, and Goku more or less overcomes it by knocking Winnie the Pooh over, dragging him to the edge of the ring, and judo tossing him out. And that ends that fight. And I don't have a whole lot more to say about it.
Yeah, it's not a very interesting fight. It's not
No.
hard for Goku. The jokes are bad. The animation's not very good. That's the whole fight.
Yeah.
I
Go back
don't
to your
know.
Thousand Acre Wood, Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, so Winnie the Pooh gets thrown out of the ring and Champa starts throwing a temper tantrum.
Yep, yep. Champa's not pleased. He thinks the ring out is bogus, but we basically move on to Frost against Goku, and Frost is our Frieza equivalent in Universe 6 here.
Yeah, they're the same. I don't know what race that is, but we'll just call it Frieza race. Um, so you see a lot of similarities between Frieza and Frost as far as appearances, but when it comes to actual demeanor, they are polar opposites, at least right now, where Frost is very polite and is giving a big shout out to the fans and thanking everyone for being there and talking about how they're going to be friends afterwards. Frost seems like a pretty nice guy right now.
Yeah, yeah, he's making a big show of it, and he really wins over the Z fighters and the family who are watching. And we basically start things off with Frost in what we assume to be his first form. It looks very much like Frieza's first form, and
Yeah. And everyone having seen Frieza and fought Frieza, they start calling Frost out on sandbagging. Show us your
yeah,
real power. Show us your final form. Stop messing around. And after looking around and seeing everyone calling him out, Frost decides, all right, well, I can't control my power all the way in this form, so I hope I don't kill you. And we see the big, nasty power up, or so we think.
yeah. This is interesting because he goes into his long-headed alien form. I think he has a name for it. It's like Charger form or something.
Oh, yeah, the
Um,
announcer does like a Google search on it with his antenna thing.
yeah, which is kind of interesting. We get a little more details through exposition from the announcer about Frost. But to us, this looks like Frieza's third form, not his final form. But Frost is claiming this to be his final form.
Yes, and just like every other villain, of course this is his final form.
Of course. But it kind of moves forward. They fight a little bit more. And I think Goku more or less calls him out again. Goku goes Super Saiyan and is like, "Give me your final form. Come on."
Yeah, it's at this point all the cards are on the table and I think Frost is ready to go ahead and actually show his real power. Nothing we've ever seen before, right?
Uh, right. And so he does transform into his final form. It does have a very similar feel to Frieza's final form. It's the small, kind of sleek design.
Yeah, the dense form is what I'll call it.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of
dense.
power in a small package.
There you go. And Goku in his regular Super Saiyan form pummels Frost, just not even a competition. And Frost eventually gets a punch in on Goku's arm that staggers Goku. Goku's vision starts to blur, and then Frost kicks him clean out of the ring.
Yeah, Goku's more or less kind of unconscious and thrown to the ground and I think that's where that episode ends. Wow, what a cliffhanger, right?
Yeah, I think, and this is actually interesting, honestly, especially when I watched this the first time around. I was like, what happened?" And so it's a pretty good cliffhanger. I'll actually give him that on this episode.
And after rewatching it and paying more attention, there are a few different animation scenes where they allude to what's going to happen. So I really did like that this wasn't something that was pulled out of nowhere that you couldn't have figured out. It was there. You just didn't think to look for it because Dragon Ball doesn't usually work this way.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's very subtle, but they do give you some key visual clues if you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
So,
So I thought that was at least well written, that part.
yeah, I agree. I think kind of talking about the episode as a whole, I don't think either of us liked the Winnie the Pooh fight. I think that was kind of a weak one, not very interesting. Frost here, though, even though some of the fight animation and choreography was kind of mediocre, I like what they're doing with Frost, and I like the cliffhanger that we're left with.
It's at least kind of interesting to follow, even if it's not the most visually stimulating thing or the most, I guess, entertaining villain, but it did give you something to, I guess, chew on and think about at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's true. And do you happen to remember when you watched this the first time through? Did you think that Frost was full of shit?
Yes, just because it's a Frieza. I
Yeah,
absolutely believe like I don't trust that guy. I don't care. Like no matter what, like Frost could have been like, here are all the, orphan children I've saved. And been like, you didn't save them. There's no way. I don't believe you. I never trust a Frieza.
Yeah, I can't really argue with you there. I mean, the only thing that kind of honestly, they do a good job of showing us Kaba beforehand because Kaba is a contrast to the Saiyans in Universe 7. So by showing us Kaba first, that actually kind of like lines us up to believe that Frost is actually different than our Universe 7 Frieza, which I like that. I like that detail.
Okay, I can see it. Kind of like how our Saiyans are jacked and huge, and their Saiyans have little string bean arms and are weak.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of how they animate them.
It could have been better. That's
Yeah,
just my opinion.
no, I agree with you there. But did you have anything else on that episode?
Not really. And as far as that episode goes, I don't. For me, there wasn't a ton to talk about. Not really a ton to have opinions about, just because it was the big Winnie the Pooh fight, which I thought was overall underwhelming, and
Yeah.
then the fight with Frost, which the first time I saw this, I assumed that it was just kind of an artificial cliffhanger. I assumed that it was just something to just have tension at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's fair, and we'll see that in a way it is.
Yeah, it's a roundabout way, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's initially when I watched this, I was definitely shocked and definitely interested to see the next episode and see what happened. So
Which the next episode is episode 34, Piccolo vs. Frost. Bet everything on the, oh god, Makanko Sapo. Did I
you
do it
got
right? Okay.
it.
Whew, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck with that name.
I'm glad I
uh,
said it slow.
but yeah, so Makankoso Po Monka, I can't say it.
See, yeah,
But
you gotta have it written down.
yeah, but that's our special beam cannon. That's the Japanese name for it, and we get a lot of tongue twister jokes about that in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, which I absolutely
It's
love.
fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic.
So anyway, moving into episode 34, we come back from our cliffhanger here, and I think everybody's shocked that Goku was beat. I think we even get a scene with Chi Chi showing concern for Goku. She's like, what happened? She jumps down and goes to his aid, and Goku gets right back up. He seems fine, but he's confused. He's like, "Oh, I guess I lost."
Yeah, yeah, and how wouldn't you be disoriented after that? You're in the middle of a match, the lights go out, and then you wake up and you lost. Yeah, I would feel a little weird about that. I'm surprised Goku didn't question it more.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's not angry. He's just like, "Oh, well, good job."
I would feel
Uh,
so cheated if I were Goku because I would want a fair fight. Like even Goku as a kid, when Chaozu flew up into the air, he was like, "That's cheating because I can't get to you. That's BS." And I feel like Goku would have done something like that. It bothers me.
right. At the very least, I feel like Goku would have wanted to know what happened.
Yeah. Like there should have been maybe I don't imagine Goku being mad, but maybe Goku being frustrated or really trying to get to the bottom of it because just by accepting that loss, that doesn't make him a stronger fighter. And that is Goku's number one motive, period. He wants to become a better fighter and just, being like, oh, well, you beat me. What? No. Goku would be like, how did you beat me? What did you do? I need to know more.
Yeah, I think at the very least, I would have liked to have seen Goku ask, "Hey, what technique did you use or what did you do?" I think he does ask something kind of to that effect, and
He
Frost
doesn't
just
press
kind
it
of
though. He does not
right.
press it at all. It just, ugh.
Yeah, Frost just kind of brushes it off and says, "I think I got lucky. I got a little desperate." So it seems a little odd, but
I mean, I do believe Bulma because Bulma said Goku lost because Krillin wasn't cheering hard enough, and that is an absolute fact.
way to go, Krillin.
Yeah,
It's always Krillin's fault.
ruins everything. That guy, let me tell you.
That's right. But Frost continues to play the good guy here. He, raises Goku's hand in the air, and
Mm.
all of our Z fighters were kind of cheering for Frost prior to this, so it was a little bit of a weird exchange.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. Sometimes the jokes are, I feel like, misplaced. But Frost is such a good guy. It's like, well, these are that's your husband or your best friend or whatever out there. And just please stop. The jokes are too on the nose. Just tune it down a little bit, please.
yeah, yeah, they're definitely heavy-handed here, which is Yeah, I liked the Goku joke. I liked him punching Monaka in the face, but some of the other ones have just been a little bit off.
Yeah, and I guess with Goku finally officially knocked out, Piccolo is going to be our next fighter to enter the ring, and he's going to fight Frost now.
Yeah, and Goku kind of tells Piccolo that he doesn't have a chance. So we're going into this assuming that Frost is just stronger than Piccolo and is going to win more or less.
Which is
Uh,
weird because I feel like if you watch that match, you wouldn't get like Frost is strong. You would think that Frost has a trick or something. Would be my walk away.
yeah, I agree. We kind of talked uh, before the podcast about the fact that it feels like Piccolo should kind of be on par with Frost if Frost is, on par with what we know to be fourth form Frieza, like Frieza Saga Frieza. So it
Or at
feels a
least
little bit odd.
Super Saiyan. Well, Super Saiyan form Goku, just Super Saiyan 1, was stronger than Frost. And it seemed like by a considerable
By a
amount.
lot, yeah.
So why wouldn't Piccolo be at least as strong as a weakened Frost at this point?
Right, yeah, yeah, Frost got the crap beat out of him for at least a few minutes there too, so it seems a little strange, but that's what we got, so
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be one of those things where we're gonna bring up the power level weird disparity that's in because Dragon Ball Super is probably, as far as shows go or as far as series go, it is the worst, I guess, grasp on power level that I've seen in Dragon Ball. It's all over the place, and this is another, I guess, glaring example of that.
just be glad you haven't watched all of GT yet.
No,
That
I
gets
mean,
real bad.
I watched the beginning and the end.
Well, that's all you need.
I fell asleep through a lot of the middle parts, but I honestly I didn't miss anything.
You're not really wrong.
No. I fell asleep and woke up and they had all the Dragon Balls and then the actual story started. It was great.
You skipped the parts that didn't matter. But we basically get Piccolo starting his fight with Frost. I think Piccolo starts off real early with his Manka. I can't say it
Special
either.
beam cannon.
Special beam cannon.
And one little note, at the start of the fight, Jocko actually flies over to where Vegeta is sitting because he wants to get a better look at the fight. And that's going to be really important here in the near future.
That is a good point. I think we even see like Vegeta being confused as to how Goku lost, and we see Jocko at least paying close attention during both fights and kind of being confused.
And something that they've brought up multiple times with Jocko is that he has basically one superpower, and that's his eyes don't miss anything. And
Yep.
it's actually, I do have a little appreciation for Jocko because he actually does something that's interesting. Most of the storylines and arcs and I guess his introduction I don't care about because they weren't very good most of the time, at least to
Yeah.
me. But at least at this point, it seems like he's actually starting to integrate into the Z fighters in the story and actually have something to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point, especially because sometimes the weaker fighters don't have anything to offer outside of exposition during a fight.
You
So,
got to have some good exposition though, and maybe a good I don't know, fart joke here or there.
hey, man, got to keep it lively. But yeah, so we get Piccolo starting by charging his special beam cannon, and he's kind of dodging around. It's an interesting contrast to his special beam cannon during the Raditz fight, where he was completely stationary, more like Goku charging the Spirit Bomb. Here, Piccolo's dancing around, he's dodging, he's even shooting out other attacks. He shoots out Key Blast from his antenna, and so it's a pretty active and engaged fight with Frost shooting like little death beams at Piccolo for a while.
And Frost is
And
doing his best to try and disrupt Piccolo because right at the beginning,
yep,
Frost picks up that, all right, you're trying to charge this massive attack and it's going to take time. I'm going to interrupt it. I'm going to shoot Key Blast at you. I'm going to try and punch you. I'm going to do anything I can to make sure that that's disrupted. You're not going to get that attack off.
absolutely. And they're really trying to push home the fact that Piccolo is a strategist, or he's just a smart fighter here. But eventually, Piccolo gets shot with one of the death beams in the leg, and it makes it much more difficult for him to dodge around. And Frost gets in a hit against Piccolo and what he thinks is going to be knocking the energy away that Piccolo is charging with his special beam cannon, but Piccolo ends up, I guess, at least holding on to part of it, maybe, or at least continues to charge it afterwards when he grabs Frost with his stretchy arm, which I love seeing the stretchy arm. It's always fun.
Oh yeah, gives him the old stretch Armstrong, wraps him up, and then he reveals that he was planning on getting hit the whole time so that way Frost would drop his guard. And now with the stretchy arm around him, he can charge up his attack and finish off Frost in one foul swoop.
Right, and this is pretty cool. I think that we maybe have slightly differing opinions here, or even mixed opinions about the fight and the tactics here. But Frost then pulls a the needle from his arm and stabs Piccolo, or this is what we're finding out here at the end. He basically poisons Piccolo. Piccolo's vision goes blurry like it did with Goku, and Frost is easily able to dodge his attack and knock Piccolo out of the ring. Or actually, I'm sorry, he blows a hole through Piccolo.
Yeah, which, it's always Piccolo who gets a hole blown into him or an arm ripped off, but yeah, Frost pretty much all but kills Piccolo. It's probably pretty close, but yeah, Piccolo drops to the ground. He's unconscious, and at this point, Frost is once again declared the winner. But Jocko decides to stand up and chime in with his objection and claims that Frost is using an illegal weapon.
Right, and I kind of jumped ahead here a little bit, but basically our referee checks Frost and finds this poison needle on his wrist, and he more or less is getting disqualified here for using a weapon because that's not it's against the rules for the world tournament, or at least this universe tournament now.
So was that needle? Was it something that Frost was like adding to his body, or was that a natural part of Frost's body?
Frost tries to claim that it's a natural part of his body, and it's kind of hard to tell because, like, visually, it looks like it could easily be part of his body, but Frost is also, as we find out, a liar and a cheater, and
That's true. Because I
at the
had some
very
questions about that when later on there's a ruling revolving around lava that is apparently cool. So,
right. I think if we assume that the needle is a part of Frost's body, the problem here is the fact that the poison that Frost used on the needle is not eh, it's not organic, or at least it's not a part of his biology, if nothing else.
oh, okay. That's where I was getting a little confused. I was wondering where the needle was like, is this just maybe a slight difference between, the universe's Frieza race or something like that? I wasn't really sure. It was really unclear to me.
Yeah, they don't really clear it up. But I mean, the way that I would kind of justify that in my mind is the fact that he was using the poison, which is not part of his biology, and that's kind of why he got disqualified, if nothing else.
I mean, that would make sense, but I don't think they really explained whether the poison was a part of his biology or not. They're just like, well, poison's against the rules. You're out. I was like, well, if it's a natural poison,
Yeah, that's fair. I kind of made that assumption because they disqualified him because of the poison, so I just assumed it was not a part of his body.
we just need some good drama, and that's why you're disqualified. Get out of here.
Get out of here. But this flips the good guy Frost on its head. We find out that he's a bad guy, and
Well,
I
as they're making the call, there was a comment that made me laugh where if Jocko is wrong about Frost using poison, Champa says, I'm going to destroy you for wasting my time.
yeah,
And I don't know why, but it made me laugh because Beerus goes, yeah, I guess it is just Jocko.
I thought that was pretty funny too. And I think even Vegeta says something to the
Oh
same
yeah,
effect.
it's Beerus goes, if Choppa destroys you, it's no skin off of my back. And Vegeta goes, yeah, I guess it is just Jocko.
Yeah,
Just everybody's ripping on him.
I
It's
thought
his
that was
own
great.
team.
See, that's the comedy that I want to see. That to me was funny.
I cracked up. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. And so we basically get them trying to disqualify Frost and give Piccolo his fight back, or Piccolo gets to move on and Frost is disqualified. But Vegeta steps up and tells Piccolo that he's going to forfeit so that Vegeta can fight Frost, which I thought this was super interesting. What did you think about this, Dayton?
I thought it was interesting. The thing that peeved me the most about it is that Piccolo gets cheated out of a fight,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh well, Frost cheated, so you're back in, and then Vegeta makes him surrender anyway. And now,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't know. I get that Frost looks like a Frieza, but there is no actual, I guess, connection between Frost and Vegeta. So him stepping in to beat up a Frieza lookalike doesn't really do anything for me. So the, I guess, Vegeta beating up Frost does not outweigh my love for Piccolo and wanting to see him fight more.
I can't really argue with you there. I mean, I am also a Vegeta fanboy, so I was excited to see this moment, partly because I was curious to see if Piccolo would even stand down with Vegeta asking him to do so, and Piccolo does. And then also, I get your point about there being really no connection between Frost and Vegeta. However, in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking, man, Vegeta just got blue balled for killing Frieza when Goku stole his kill, and Vegeta really wants to get that kill off on Frost.
Man, he's been rocked for like a year now, and he needs to just do it somewhere.
So I could, I don't know, I kind of justified that in my mind that way, but I was just thinking about what's going through Vegeta's mind right now.
I mean, like, they could have just been like, we'll have a grudge match or whatever, and if you beat me, then you can stay in the tournament or something. There were so many better ways they could have done it, but the fact that Piccolo didn't even really get a full fight in this tournament, and he's out of it already. Ugh, come on!
I know. And I even as much as I love Vegeta, I wanted to see more characters fight in this. Not only Piccolo, but like we said earlier, somebody else like Boo, Gohan, Krillin, 18, somebody.
Manaka.
Just to we'll get to see that, don't worry.
Yeah, we're building up to it.
That's right. But that more or less wraps up this episode and moves us into the next one. Did you want to give us episode 35?
Of course, turn anger into power. Vegeta's all-out battle. And this, I think it's an entertaining episode. It's, I guess, the closest thing to fan service we're going to get during this tournament, so I guess appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we basically start off with this grudge match between Vegeta and Frost. I mean, Frost kind of giving up the ghost and just being full bad guy at this point, saying like he wants to remove the rules for him to use his weapon. He wants to remove the rules about killing people. And
Everything's on the table. You're getting my full ruthlessness, and I'm not holding back.
exactly. And Frost thinks that he's in the advantageous position here now because he can do whatever he wants. And Vegeta's like, yeah, fucking bring it.
And let's see here. The match begins, and do you want to go ahead and just break down the entire match for me real quick?
Yeah. It basically goes, what punch?
Yeah, it's basically a big monologue from Frost leading up to it and into the very start of the match about how he's going to just wipe the floor with Vegeta. Everything's on the table. You're in his realm now. And then Vegeta just whack one just hell of a punch to Frost. And Frost is, I think, blasted into the dome of the ring and is immediately out of the match.
Yeah, I think he shatters or breaks a hole in the dome. Vegeta powers up to Super Saiyan to do it, but doesn't go beyond that. And Vegeta actually expresses that he held back enough to make sure that he didn't kill the guy.
Oh, what a
Which,
nice guy.
Yeah, he's so thoughtful. But I mean, that actually took up the better part of the first half of the episode. I think we basically we get Frost knocked out. Vegeta's in now. We get Beerus kind of checking over Goku's
Yeah,
body.
there's a lot of quick little bullet points that they kind of buzz through at the end of the episode. There's not a lot of substance, but there are some important points. So
Yeah,
I guess the couple important points are they find the needle marks on Goku, and he's allowed back into the tournament because he was illegally knocked out. So Goku's back on the menu, boys.
That's right. And they kind of start to create a new additional barrier here for the next fight. We also get a quick little scene that I wanted to bring up briefly of Frost going to steal the treasure that Champa had promised his universe's fighters, as well as going to steal the Champa's hexahedron, his little square that flies him around the galaxy. And Frost here is stopped by who we know to be Hit, the kind of black clad purple alien fighter on Universe Six's team. And Frost more or less just beats up, or I'm sorry, Hit beats Frost uh, without us really even seeing what happens. We get like these pillars of light coming out of Frost's body, but
I
we don't
thought
even.
Frost was dead. I thought the Frost was dead because it's just lights coming out of the head and everywhere, and then just like goes limp.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like he just got, murdered. One other thing that I wanted to note, because I'm a huge Critical Role nerd, is the fact that the English voice dub for Hit here is done by Matthew Mercer, who is one of my favorite voice actors, as well as the dungeon master for Critical Role, and he
Oh,
does an
that's really
excellent
cool.
job.
That's really
Yeah,
cool.
I was super excited when I found that out. So I'm stoked to get more Hit here with Matt Mercer voicing him.
And I mean, we're not getting to Hit for a minute, but oh man, I love that character. So what a cool character to voice too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get a little taste of Hit here, and we'll get more of him later. But
We also get
the
a brief scene with Manaka where it's revealed that he's been unconscious for almost the entire tournament.
see, this is more good comedy. This is the stuff that I like. Um, I think it actually shows. Oh no, it's a little bit later, but yeah, it shows him basically just like deadpan stare at the tournament ring and just not moving whatsoever.
Like, look at him. He's so intense.
Yeah, he's so focused.
Oh, it's so good. I freaking love it.
Yeah, that is excellent. And I think that that ends up taking us into the start of the fight with Vegeta and our metal man from Universe 6, Magetta.
Yeah, and Champa's up to some, I guess, shenanigans because right before the match is about to begin, they start erecting a barrier that's quite small right around the ring for the quote unquote protection of all the bystanders.
Yeah, and they even make a rule where if any of the contestants, the fighters, if they touch the barrier, that's considered out of bounds, out of the arena. So they lose if they touch that barrier.
And Beerus smells the fishiness, but also Vegeta doesn't care. He's a little too prideful to, you know, I guess, back down from any cheap tricks or anything else because he's just too darn powerful.
Yeah, yeah, Vegeta is like, whatever, bring it. And so we get the start of this where we kind of get the impression as the fight begins that this metal man he's hardy. Vegeta starts to think that he's slow and just powerful and just kind of dodging around. But Magetta ends up surprising him a little bit and shows that he can be fast. And I think Vegeta ends up taken to the sky, but he's only got limited space to move. And then Magetta starts firing lava out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's lava. And right before the match had started, Magetta was drinking like lava drinks and stuff like that, and started,
Yeah.
I guess, building up steam for this match. And we really start seeing it uh, coming to fruition because as lava's being vomited everywhere and energy blasts are going off, and Vegeta's getting worked up. Whis points out that this match is probably not going the direction that Vegeta was thinking it would go.
That's true. I think the kind of towards the end of the episode, Vegeta ends up having to go Super Saiyan to just blast a lot of the smoke out of his area. And it kind of leaves us there as we move towards the next episode for the continuation of the fight. Did you have anything else to talk about with that one before we move on?
I mean, it was. I guess my overall feelings in the episode is that it was overall, I think, a pretty decent episode. Like I said, I don't like the cost of getting the fight between Frost and Vegeta, but
Yeah.
I mean, that punch was freaking amazing. I could feel it and love it, so I liked it. Um, and then I guess the beginning of the match between Vegeta and this robot, I'm hooked in. What trickery is gonna happen here? Like, it's a good episode. It's kind of a bridge fight episode, I guess is the way I'd call it.
Yeah, and you can tell, at least here, maybe not in the first couple of arcs, but Super is trying not to drag the fights out. These fights are fast. It's usually maybe one episode, maybe carries in over from one episode to another episode, but that's it. We're not getting like, Namek Saga levels of dragged out fights, which I like. I wish that the fights were a little bit more quality, but I like that they're making them a little bit more condensed and concise.
Yeah, they're good. I'm not getting bored with the fights at least. None of these fights have been like, "Oh my god, hurry up," or anything like that. It's like usually it's a pretty quick fight and either I like it or I don't and then I'm on to the next one. So, there hasn't
Yeah.
been anything I've hated so far. It's just, you know, like or dislike, which is I think overall a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go ahead and move on to the next episode and continue that fight with episode 36.
An unexpectedly tough fight, Vegeta's explosion of rage.
All right.
And
So,
it starts off with a sweaty hot Vegeta just gasping
mm,
for air.
I do love me some sweaty hot Vegeta.
Yeah,
So,
they're really emphasizing that this hot box that they're in is getting really hot and the air is getting very, very thin. And Vegeta's kind of being pushed up against the ropes in this match.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, Vegeta's still kind of sandbagging it, but I think we get the impression that both Goku and Vegeta are trying to reserve their energy in case, or conserve their energy in case they have somebody stronger that they have to go up against. So Vegeta in just his regular old Super Saiyan, I think he fires out a Gallic gun, and Magetta counters it with his lava flow, which ends up turning to rock. And I actually thought this was kind of funny where Magetta grabs the rock or the lava that he shot out, turns it into a club, and bashes Vegeta to the ground.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I love tough opponents. I also love creative different opponents and this was, mind you, not the most evil awesome villain I've seen, but definitely an entertaining opponent in a martial arts match. So I was having fun with this one.
Right. This feels a little bit like a harkening back to original Dragon Ball tournaments where you've got fighters that have kind of unique, interesting quirks that make them an engaging fight to watch rather than just being who's stronger.
Yeah, typically most of Goku's villains are more, I guess, creative than he is.
That's definitely true. But let's see. We get the Gallic gun. I think actually, as Vegeta gets bashed downward with the club, we have kind of this little mid-episode cliffhanger where it looks
Mm,
like Vegeta is touched down
mm,
outside of the ring and is knocked
mm.
out.
Yeah, really looks like it, doesn't it? Really looks like he touched outside the ring, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm guessing you didn't care for this part, huh?
Oh, buddy. So, Vegeta trying to resist hitting the ground more or less fails, and the ref runs over to see a toe on the ground, but he looks closely, and a piece of the ring was on the ground under his toe where he had touched. So he's technically still in the ring. What the fuck? I don't agree with that call at all. You are definitely outside the ring. The ring marks an area that you are fighting within, not just anywhere the ring goes is in bounds. It's not. No.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's a pretty weird ruling. It seems like a little bit of a way to contrive this, again, kind of an artificial cliffhanger for this one, and it makes you feel like there's some danger of Vegeta losing even though he hasn't gone Super Saiyan Blue, like hasn't gone all out. Um, so it's, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. I agree the call feels really strange.
That is that illegal. Illegal. That no. Just bad call. Come on. If he's gonna stay in the game, just say like, "Oh no, he's actually a millimeter above the ground. He's technically still in." Just do that. You've done it before. Do it again. I don't care.
Yeah, I could even go with that. That would be that would make more sense. But this is actually one of the moments where Champa is angry, where I'm like, yeah, he fucking should be angry.
Yeah, like that was a bad call. Bad call, ref. The refs are rigged.
Yeah. But this actually makes Vegeta pretty ticked off, and I think Vegeta's angry here because he felt like he could have lost. He could have lost on a technicality, and really ended up staying in the fight because of a technicality. So he charges up to break this barrier that's in around the ring, and this is actually the part that I was almost jumping ahead to, where we get a little shot of Monaka
Yes.
just sitting on the couch, and this glass is all surrounding him, and he just no sells it.
It's like, wow, he didn't even blink.
Yeah,
It's so
and
good.
yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. You see like Hit catching the glass, and you see a couple other people like blocking it and stuff, and Monaka's just
Goku
sitting
very
there.
poorly animated dodging it.
Phew, that was rough. But so we've got no more barrier at this point. Vegeta charges up for his final flash, which I love seeing the final flash. This final flash is not the best animated, unfortunately.
No, it's a really this blast could have been in line with any other blast you've seen in any other episode. It was a very average blast, especially because it's his signature move. There should have been a little bit more gusto to it, but I mean, it gets the job done. It knocks the robot back to the edge of the ring, and then it's just enough for Vegeta to run up and say some mean words and then knock the robot out of the ring and finally win the match.
Right. And Whis basically reveals that the metal men of Magetta's race, they are very sensitive, very emotionally sensitive, and the best way to defeat them is to say something mean to them.
Yep, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Those metal boys.
That's right. And that I don't know. I was fine with that. I thought it was kind of, again, funny little quirky characters harkening back to the original Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I was fine with it too. I mean, it's typical Dragon Ball, and it's also Vegeta not taking the fight seriously either, which is I would think that's the most bothersome part about all of this is why wouldn't Vegeta, if it takes 3 seconds in blue to knock this guy out, just do that? There's no way that takes more energy than fighting like a 10-minute match against a guy in your Super Saiyan form.
Yeah, I can't really argue with you there. I can almost certainly see Goku doing stuff like that, where Goku's going to sandbag it because he wants an interesting fight.
Yeah.
But Vegeta's not really that way. The only thing that I could justify that with Vegeta is Vegeta thinking, this guy's not worth it. This guy's not worth my all. I'm too good to power up to Super Saiyan Blue to
I
beat
could
this
see
guy.
that, yeah. I'm not giving you the I guess the dignity of knowing that you fought me at my highest form.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way I could really justify that with Vegeta not going all out.
I could
But
definitely see that. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah. But that more or less wraps up that episode. Did you have any other thoughts on that one?
The only thing I have to point out is at the very end of this episode, Kaba is chosen as the next fighter in the match.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I'm almost jumping the gun because I'm excited to get to that episode.
Oh yeah. So we get a preview basically of what's going to be happening next with Kaba stepping forth. But from there, as far as I guess an episodic review, it was an all right episode. Some decent fighting. I didn't like the cliffhanger's resolution, so I wasn't a huge fan
Yeah,
of that. I mean, overall, it was all right. I don't regret watching that episode. It entertained me, and that's all I asked for.
yeah, it was okay. I would have. I mean, throughout this whole thing, I would like the animation to be better.
Yes.
Uh, but besides that, I like the quirky bad guys. I mean, you can tell that they're not going all out because they're not going Super Saiyan Blue, but the quirkiness is fun. It's fun to see something a little bit different than just who's stronger and punch each other really hard.
And it's more creative characters. It's something
Yeah,
different, and I like that.
yeah, I agree. So I think that kind of moves us on to the next episode where we're going to get Vegeta versus Kaba.
That's true. So we are on episode 37. Don't forget your Saiyan pride. Vegeta versus the Saiyan of Universe 6.
Heck yeah. All right. So I think this one starts us right off with I guess they're getting Vegeta prepped and ready for the next fight. They're wiping him up. He's getting something to drink.
He's getting some water. They're cleaning up the ring too because there's a giant hole put into it.
Yeah, that's right. And they make it a little bit bigger too. But there actually was a line here early on that I wanted to talk about briefly where Yamcha says that Kaba reminds him of Goku, which I thought was kind of a weird comment. At least visually, Kaba to me does not remind me of Kid Goku at all.
I'll say like he's tall and skinny, whereas Goku is kind of like short and I guess baby body. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to describe it.
I-
Their hair doesn't even really look that similar.
no.
I don't know. It's their demeanors are wildly different. I
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like a really forced comment to try and be like, "Look, they really are like our Saiyans." It's like, no, they're not. They're
No.
completely different.
Yeah, I thought it was really weird. It definitely felt forced. I didn't really like that comment at all.
Which there wasn't even a need for that comment. Let the Saiyans in the other universe be different than the ones in ours. Like they have radically different storylines and histories. Let that show.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, they even tried very hard to show that they were different initially off the bat, and now they're trying to connect them in some way. I don't know. It felt weird.
Just shut up, Yamcha. No one cares.
That's pretty much everybody's MO. But we got the an interaction with the Kais here where the Universe 6 Kai says that the Saiyans are from their universe are heroes of justice and there he kind of has a back and forth with the elder Kai. But what I thought was kind of funny here was that they were talking about how the Saiyans of Universe 6 are paid to kind of keep the peace. And Balma and Chi Chi are lamenting that they got the deadbeat
Oh,
Saiyans who don't have any
yeah.
jobs.
Uh,
I actually thought
Jeez.
that was hilarious.
I did think that was kind of funny. But I mean, they make up for it in other ways. Like they're jacked.
Yeah.
I
They're no string bean like Kaba.
don't know what to say. I was just like, well, looks wise, I think I know which universe I'd go with.
I'll definitely take me a Goku or a Vegeta any day. But
How old is Kappa supposed to be, by the way?
that is a great question. Off the top of my head, I really don't know. I think we get the impression that he's pretty young, maybe like late teens, possibly early 20s
Oh,
would be
wow. Is he that old?
I think so. He
I'm,
might be a little bit younger, but I'm not positive about that.
see, I had assumed he was like 13, 14,
Yeah.
but it's
I
hard to tell. This show does a bad job at kind of describing age. Like, how old are Goten and Trunks?
they're 13 and 14.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay. I thought they were like, 5 and 8.
Nope.
Oh,
But
buddy.
yeah, Super's done some weird things with age, but yeah. So yeah, I think I would guess 14 to 18. Wouldn't be surprised if he were in his early 20s though, based on the way that they treat him.
Okay, I guess. I'm going to say that makes sense, even though you could pretty much pick an age number out of a hat, and I would probably agree with it.
Yeah.
Well, he's 56. All right, saying sure are different in that universe.
Yeah, exactly. You can kind of explain it away however you like. But we get to start or we get the fight started here pretty quick and I think they both start fighting off in base form. You can tell that Vegeta is going easy. I mean, he's feeling out the fight. He even says something to the effect of Kaba should pace himself a little bit more. And one of the things that I liked in this fight is that they actually have some fakes. There's some actual like fake outs where Vegeta goes to kick with one foot, then kicks with the other, and I like that they showed that because it shows at least some thought into the fighting, even though it wasn't animated very well. Um,
No, this fight, you're not there for the visuals. It definitely feels like they're focusing more on the dialogue and the story between Kappa and Vegeta. That's actually the main course when it comes to this episode.
that's a good point, and we really start to see that here as Vegeta is shocked to see Cabba using what looks like Vegeta's Gallic Gun attack. And tell me your thoughts on this, because I I didn't get the impression that Cabba was doing what Goku did initially with the Kamehameha and just like saw it and then used it. I more so got the impression that Cabba knew the technique himself and was just using a very similar technique to Vegeta.
Oh, I actually, yeah, the way you thought about it, I didn't think there was any other way to think about it. I thought it was because Vegeta had already mentioned that his fighting stance was similar to their universe's fighting stance or his fighting stance. And so when he went
Yeah.
to use the Gallic gun, I was just like, all right, well, these are just more similarities between these universes. If is that what was supposed to be happening? Because I never thought that it was Cabba, I guess, replicating Vegeta's techniques from watching. I always thought it was just Cabba doing what his universe was doing, which was similar to, I guess, Vegeta.
Yeah, and I think it's probably supposed to be that way. The only thing that even led me to consider the other direction is the fact that Vegeta did use his Gallic gun in his fight with Magetta, so Cabba had the opportunity to watch it, but there's no commentary to say that Cabba copied it. Vegeta's just shocked to see him using it is
Well,
all.
Yamcha did say that Cabba reminds him of a young Goku, and Goku could see techniques and learn them like that. So
There you
there's something
go.
there. Yamcha
Maybe it
figured it out.
Yamcha's really the MVP.
No, he's not. Shut. Get out. Go play baseball, Yamcha.
We'll get to that eventually.
Oh God, that's right.
But they actually make a comment here, which I wasn't a big fan of, that Vegeta says Kappa and he are evenly matched in their base form, which maybe he's blowing smoke up Kappa's shorts or something. But I just didn't really like that comment. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get it. I think maybe it's Vegeta's trying to cut him some slack because of Saiyan pride or something like that. But I mean, it's even if it's true, let's assume they are equally matched in base forms. Fine. Vegeta has 7 forms above that. That doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And that actually brings us to Vegeta basically saying, "Let's kick this up a notch. Let's go to Super Saiyan and fight from there." And Kaba says, "I can't. I don't know how to transform." And Kaba asks Vegeta in the middle of this fight, "Will you please teach me how to transform into a Super Saiyan? I want to know so that I can be stronger and so I can help defend my universe and my family." And what did you
And
think about
Vegeta's
this?
response is my favorite thing because Vegeta just gets pissed off at him because we're in the middle of a match right now and you're asking me to train you. Do you know how disrespectful that is? And Vegeta just goes berserk and starts beating the absolute snot out of Kaba. I freaking love it.
I love this too. Yeah, Vegeta transforms. He starts pummeling Kaba. We actually get the audience worrying about Vegeta turning evil and killing Kaba. And I was a little bit disappointed with this, if only because I didn't like that they had Bulma expressing that same concern. Because at this point, with all the time that Bulma and Vegeta have spent together, I really want Bulma to understand Vegeta
Well,
and
she
to
should know him, right? Like there should be
absolutely.
that deeper connection. She should be able to look at this and go, like, guys, settle down. I know what he's doing.
I really wanted to hear that from her, but unfortunately, we got Bulma being like, "Oh no, what's Vegeta doing? Why is he doing this?" But I would have liked to have heard that a little bit differently. But basically, we get Vegeta pummeling Kaba to the point where Kaba says, "I give up."
Oh yeah, and that was the wrong thing to say to Vegeta because it ignites a fire in him and he just cranks the pain train to 11 and Kaba starts getting just repeatedly knocked into the air and kicked around and is just being absolutely brutalized.
Yes, I love this. Vegeta actually says in response to it, even, "If you quit on me, I will kill you." I love it. This is like Saiyan Saga Vegeta coming out, and it's fantastic. And I think we get to a point where Vegeta says that he's going to blow up Sadala, murder Kaba's family, and make sure that he does it slowly and painfully.
And this was the I guess the final straw for Kaba because he actually gets some fight back into him and we see him ignite into a Super Saiyan. Woo! It wasn't that hard.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit torn on this, but I I like what they're going for here. I like Vegeta knowing exactly what to do to get somebody to turn Super Saiyan. The so we I mean the transformation here didn't even look very great, unfortunately. Uh, but we've got Super Saiyan Kaba against Super Saiyan Vegeta, and now Kaba is going to town. Kaba is actually beating up on Vegeta for a period of time here, and they try to even show some more dynamic shots with Kaba, which I like them at least trying. We get Kaba's like little kick combo where he kicks Vegeta up into the air, and then one parallel that I really like here with Kaba and Vegeta is Kaba gets slams Vegeta down into the ground, and then Kaba does what I like to call, and I think some of the fans like to call the Daka Daka, where he's just like shooting the tons of ki blast down at Vegeta, which is a very angry Vegeta move. So I
Yes.
really like that parallel.
We've seen that a couple times. That's the letting loose, let it all fly, and just blast everything you got at him and see what sticks.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious, and I loved that. That was really well done. But then it kind of goes from there, where Kaba throws a punch at Vegeta, with Vegeta just smiling and just letting it come in, and Vegeta no sells it. He takes the punch straight to the forehead, and no effect. And that's when Vegeta, I think Kaba kind of goes out of his transformation, and Vegeta explains to him and starts teaching him that anger is the key to transforming into a Super Saiyan.
Yeah, that's how you access the power. He explains that you've got to be able to tap into your rage, and that's where the Super Saiyan form comes from. And just like that, Cab is able to master Super Saiyan and can go right back into that form.
Yeah, which I think both of us are a little bit torn on that because we've never seen that happen before.
At this
Um,
point, Super Saiyan's so cheap that it's just not worth anything. So I guess he can have it. Just
well,
when I think back to Goku and Namek or Future Trunks, it was so cool to see it happen, and now it's just another Super Saiyan.
yeah, I think I'll give them a pass here, if only because I like what they're doing with Vegeta's character, and I like what they're doing with trying to get Vegeta into a mentor role where he cares about somebody else's progress. Um,
But not his
so
sons, right? As long as it's not
yeah.
him, then he cares. Any other Saiyan, literally.
Yeah, I mean, there's some mixed stuff going on there, but we'll touch on that another time.
I don't love my son. I can't train him. He doesn't age.
It's gonna be young forever. But at that point, we basically get the conclusion to this fight where Vegeta transforms into Super Saiyan Blue just to show Kaba the transformation. He gives him another one punch,
Yeah, buddy.
and he basically says, "Remember this pain and let this fuel you, let this motivate you, so that you can, one day get to where I'm at." And
And that quick flash into Super Saiyan Blue, it does. This is the first time we see something catch Hit's attention. So,
yeah, that's a good point too. Hit actually looks up for that. And there's actually a couple of really good lines. Again, I'm gushing here because Vegeta, but
go ahead and gush.
yeah, there's a couple of really good lines here where Vegeta reprimands Kaba, but in more of like a mentor position at this point, where he's saying, you gave up or you tried to give up in that fight. He says, surrender is worse than defeat. Never forget who you are. Where is your Saiyan pride? And he equates Saiyan pride with strength. And I love this. This is like quintessential Vegeta. This really expresses who he is at his core. And it's not just Vegeta being proud or showing pride in himself. It's Vegeta showing pride as a Saiyan for another Saiyan, which is I love this. This shows Vegeta actually caring about another person, and really just further expressing that pride as a Saiyan.
Yeah, and that's always been, I guess, a core part of his character. He's always screamed about Saiyan pride, but there are quite a few moments where it's actually kind of a important, almost heart touching kind of moment where
Hmm.
he honestly believes in that. It is important to him. Whether it's back on Namek when he asked Goku to strike down Frieza for destroying his planet, or right
Yep,
now when he's meeting another Saiyan from another universe and he's putting that kind of that responsibility of being strong and carrying on the legacy of the race. He's laying it on the Kappa now.
exactly. And I really like that a lot. And this is, I mean, it's showing growth for Vegeta and it's showing his character change because, I mean, there's been a long, long time where Vegeta didn't care about anybody but himself, and now he
Hmm.
cares about Bulma, he cares about Trunks, arguably, he cares about Kaba, um, and then he's got another line here towards the end where Kaba says that he wants to one day get as strong as Vegeta, and Vegeta says, set your sights higher, meaning I don't want you to get as strong as me. I want you to surpass me. I want you to get stronger. And that's what Vegeta's always working towards with Goku. Vegeta's always trying to get stronger than Goku. So I really liked that exchange between them. And then Kaba says, I will do that. And Vegeta's like, yeah, but I'm not going to let you just surpass
Yeah,
me.
you got to actually do it here. I'm not a pushover.
That's right. So just these little pieces of dialogue between them, I really really enjoy. Um, and we kind of wrap up the match with Kaba saying to Vegeta, "You remind me of King Sadala. He's kind of like a strong, proud Saiyan, just like you are." And Vegeta says, "You'll have to. I'd love to meet him someday."
I hope Vegeta kills him when he does.
I'm the better king.
I'm the king of Saiyans now.
That's right.
Upgrade.
I'm the prince of all Saiyans. Now I'm the king of all Saiyans in
Prince and
all
king.
universes.
I'm the Saiyan called Prince King.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you guys can all probably tell, I like this episode. I love Vegeta. I really like what they're trying to do here and trying to change his character to be a little bit more kind and caring and take on that mentor role. And so, for the most part, that brings us getting close to the end of the episode here. I think we've
Yeah,
only
I
got
think
one or
there's only one more big point that we need to get across, unless I'm forgetting something, but the next fighter in the match is announced, and it's going to be Universe's sixth best fighter, Hit, going up against Vegeta.
right. And that's pretty much where we wrap up this episode, episode 37, which is the last one that we're covering tonight. And sorry to everybody, especially anybody who's still listening. This one's going to be a long one,
Oh yeah, and it's a
but
two-parter too.
yeah, we had a lot to talk about, particularly with this episode. We tried to skip over some of the less interesting stuff. But what did you think about that episode as a whole, Dayton?
Probably in the episodes we covered, probably one of the best ones, if not the best one in the first part of the saga, I would say. The fighting isn't necessarily the best, but the story is probably the best in it. And that's more or less what the first part of the saga is all about. It's all about story and build up. And I think we get a lot of that here. So I'm a big fan of this episode. I don't know if it's my favorite episode, but it's up there in this part of the saga.
That's fair. I think everybody can probably tell by my gushing for 20 minutes about this episode that I really enjoy this one. And I think Dayton and I both kind of agreed to end our first part of our Universe 6 coverage on this episode because it ends on a good note. It wraps things up on a good note with Vegeta, and we'll kind of get to see some interesting stuff with him and Hit next time.
Oh yeah,
So
there's definitely some more fighting in our future when we return.
absolutely. So I think at that point, we're going to kind of wrap up this episode. We've run pretty dang long for this one. Dayton, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss?
I think we covered everything in over 2 hours of detail, so I think we pretty much got it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 2 hours. That's all.
That's it. Just a quick, sultry 2 hours.
Yeah, no problem. So I think that's it for this episode of Instant Transmission, where we discuss everything Dragon Ball. This has been your host, Todd.
And Dayton.
Be sure to join us next time as we cover the second half of the Universe 6 arc. We'll get to see Hit in all his glory and the resolution to the tournament between Universes 6 and 7. That's it for this episode of Instant Transmission. To all our fellow Dragon Ball fans, stay safe out there, and remember to keep rocking the dragon.
Nerd.